There's a new study that showcases why, when the brain is processing information, it is fundamentally different under hypnosis. Is there a similar fundamental state that a neural network could be in? We'll explore. But strangely, ghosts and other similar unexplainable experiences are actually changing people for the better. I would have thought they were just going crazy and it was making their lives worse, but yeah, it turns out roughly 51% said the experience had a positive long-term effect on their life. We'll look at Alberto Romero's thoughts about why Google, quote, fell out of the AI race and why it changes everything. And even though all these companies have bets in every direction, it does feel like Google is now taking the primary one somewhere that none of the other big companies are going. If they're right, they have this chance to kind of leapfrog, and if they're wrong, they're not going to catch up, and they already weren't the best language model. So always fascinating when you see graphs that have this kind of a shape. A lot of people have been talking about Zuckerberg's new blog, The Future is for Everyone, but I'll look at it through the lens of Ben Goertzel and his way of viewing Zuckerberg's vision. But first, if you're enjoying this content on YouTube, will you hit the hype button for me? And you might not see the button, but if you're on mobile, swipe to the right on the comments. You can see my last video, only 146 hypes, got me 110,000 hype points, and it helped the video do at the top end of average, so much appreciated. All right, now let's talk about hypnosis. Not normally maybe the kind of topic I would cover on this channel, but I am very curious about hypnosis. In fact, I've recently come to accept that I think people can get hypnotized. I was sort of skeptical. I thought it was maybe just kind of fake or people were playing along. You know what? Actually, let me just ask AI if it's real. Fable 5, high effort. Is hypnosis real? Like, not opinions, not guessing. I want you to do some research. If it's real, for this definition, that means that a person can do something to actually hypnotize someone else, and they can really be hypnotized to the point where they are doing things that they would not do in any other situation except under this state of hypnosis. And if you accept that claim, you need to explain to me what's going on in the brain according to science. Or if the mechanism of action is not 100% known, I want to know that at least it's a state that's replicatable under some kind of recurring conditions. All right, we'll check back in on this for a minute. I'm going to use Fable 5 high, so I don't got time to wait around right now. Back to the article. So, hypnosis changes the way brain processes information. All right, so from some research, there's this team in Finland that did a magnetic pulse into a hypnotized brain, and it seems like what is happening is that hypnosis may actually change how the brain moves information around. They were able to watch where electrical currents were spreading, and there was a pattern. So like in a normal waking state, the current was traveling like super wide throughout the whole brain. And at the same time, the different regions, the brain areas that were getting that information were trading signals to stay in step. However, under hypnosis, that sharing broke apart. So each area is still working, but it's working a little bit more on its own. Like the word the team used was fractured. So picture a house where everybody shouts between rooms all day. Hypnosis is like each person quietly shutting their own door. Everybody's still at home. They just stopped passing notes to one another. But the big catch to these people in Finland studying it is they're looking at one person, not one group, not 1,000 people, like a single N of one. However, this guy was picked to be studied because he responds to hypnosis unusually strongly. So you might, in theory, want to study this guy extra because under hypnosis, he can see things that are not there on cue. And the whole session can just be turned on with a single word. I guess this guy is like so susceptible. So you definitely cannot generalize what I'm talking about here. But also that same magnetic pulse that they use to test hypnosis has already been used and has some interesting patterns related to other conscious states like sleep, comas, and people under anesthesia. And hypnosis seems to fit in there pretty close. It actually sits on the same map. So I'm going to give some credit to what they're doing here, even though it's an N of one. It does not seem like hypnosis is a kind of sleep. The person is awake, the person is conscious, the person is somewhat disconnected, or their brain is working in fragmented pieces, which kind of is something fascinating to me because I don't know if you've heard about split brain patients. We have talked about this on the channel, but a long time ago. But that's a few people who have actually had surgery that cut their brain from communication. So left hemisphere and right hemisphere are not talking. Eyes get rewired, like right to left, left to right. You can close one eye and close the other eye at certain times, and the information is not not communicating, but there's all this confabulation coming together to make the person feel like one conscious person. And it is the trippiest thing ever. I've probably learned about that, I don't know, maybe 9-10 years ago or something. I think it was that book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. It was just like, I remember one time just sitting in bed thinking like, what? Like, is my brain just like gluing like different things together at the end and it all feels like me? It was a trip, man. All right, quick, before we move on, let me just jump back to Claude. Short answer, yes, hypnosis is real. Both an important correction to my definition. Is it a replicatable state? Yes. This is where the evidence is strongest. Okay, so brain scans, 57 people during guided hypnosis found 3 distinct changes in highly hypnotizable individuals. If you guys are highly hypnotizable, do you mind making a comment? I've got some questions for you. Specifically, fMRIs show that during hypnosis, there's a decrease in external attention. It's replicatable in the sense that every time you're hypnotized, the fMRI shows a distinct pattern of brain activity. Is the mechanism fully known? No, and honest research says so. Okay, it sounds like I need to correct my definition also. Like, I defined it as doing things that they would not do in any other situations, because I was thinking about stage hypnosis, where people like get up on stage and they like click, you know, like click like a chicken or like dance all weird or whatever. And they're like clearly not people who would do that. And they don't even do that kind of thing for attention in any other situation. I've seen people that do that. And that's why I'm kind of like, this might be real. Those people, I knew some people that were just not like that. And they were acting real weird up on stage under hypnosis. Can hypnosis get people to experience and do things they wouldn't otherwise? Yes. Genuinely not feeling pain during surgery level stimuli? That's so crazy to think about. Hallucinating, acting out absurd suggestions on stage. These effects are real, not acting. Yeah, okay, so I'm glad that confirms it for me, but I already was thinking that. So can hypnosis make someone do something against their will or values? The mainstream research answer is no. That's good. Hypnotized individuals retain control over their actions and can refuse unwanted suggestions, and a hypnotist cannot force somebody into a trance against their will. That is good to know, actually. Like, the stage show illusion of mind control dissolves when you notice that every volunteer chose to come up on stage. That's a good point. I've also at stage hypnotist shows seen like some people come up on stage and there a few of like say 10 that are on stage will be like not getting it, and I'll see the hypnotist just like touch them on the shoulder and like go back to your chair because like they're not getting hypnotized. Yeah, and honestly, okay, one last little thing here, but yeah, in some experience there are non-hypnotized people who were simply asked by an authority to do things that they shouldn't have done and people did it. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to be hypnotized. It's for somebody to talk you into doing something that's not good. All right. A little more hypnosis than I expected for the start of this video. So let's move to something much more practical. Seeing ghosts. Is it good for you? We're actually going to talk about some research that shows how unexplainable experiences are changing people slightly for the better on balance. I mean, you can always tell the weeks I'm going on tangents, you know? But if this is where curiosity takes us, this is where we want to be, people. So, new study shows that more than half of people who saw a ghost said it made their life better. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain that. That's why we're talking about it. 5,117 adults were asked what happens after you sense something impossible. And mostly it made them better. So this is a study that's asking people about hearing a voice when nobody's there, sensing a presence when you can't see an actual person, a sudden wave of awe or love that happens with no cause. The study ran in +1 and the team surveyed was thousands of people. And 51% said the experience changed their life for the better in the long run. Only about 15% reported lasting negative effects. And to be clear, these were normal people. They were not dreaming. They were not like on any kind of drugs of any kind. And around 60% said they were awake and alert when it happened. Okay, so what about the negative reactions? 20% did feel an immediate negative reaction. I mean, clearly that could be intimidating when you don't have explanations for things. It makes you very like... I think it could make you uneasy. I mean, obviously these people overall are actually feeling better, but there were 25% that reported some suffering. 20% felt that immediate negative reaction. So there you go. Hearing voices may not mean what psychiatry has always assumed. Maybe it's just part of making yourself better. I mean, I talk to myself in my brain. I certainly... And like what it says to me, I'm like, I don't know where you came up with that, but that's a good idea. Or like, I'm sorry, I made that mistake. Don't punish me. There's definitely something going on in there. And sometimes it just bubbles up like dreams. You know what I mean? It just, that's an argument I've heard for free will too. Like if you really have free will, where do your ideas and thoughts even come up from? You know, like you can't choose some of your thoughts. Like you can choose to think about something, but imagine you're just walking around and like, oh, I'm hungry or whatever. Like, where does that come from? All right, let's move back to the practical here. Let's talk about Google. They are positioning themselves in this frontier AI race in a way that's a little bit different than everybody else recently, and it's kind of a big bet. And I think they're onto something. You know, Google like kind of feel like they're gonna kind of win this thing. They've got some really interesting pieces. But Albert Romero writes, the actual reason why Google, quote, fell out of the AI race changes everything. Hottest story of the year. That's his subtitle, not my opinion. All right, so what's going on here is an argument that Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis, who just left the role he was doing, but doesn't mean he's not going to be playing a super important part in the development of DeepMind's move towards AGI, does not exactly buy the current plan. And that plan is what you see OpenAI and Anthropic chasing, mostly code-based recursive self-improvement. The idea that something like Anthropic's Fable is going to get one more upgrade, and the main thing that it's going to be doing inside the company is they're going to be using whatever billions, trillions of tokens to make the next version of Fable, and then Fable 5 and 6 and 7, and eventually something like Fable 6 is 99% done by Fable 5, etc., right? And then all of a sudden, boom, takes off. Anthropic ends up with this, you know, growing lead that's small but becomes bigger and bigger and bigger over time, and I guess decides the sort of future of ASI and God knows what. Or maybe that kind of gets stuck. And this seems to be a little closer to what Jan LeCun has been saying, and especially now that he's outside of Meta, he's kind of taking that route. But Hassabis, I keep saying it wrong, is actually kind of taking that route too, I guess. And if you look, Google has not completely ignored some of the other huge AI breakthroughs, right? They are building world models. We have seen Genie. We've seen a lot of work around diffusion models, Nano Banana. We've seen systems that have baked in geometry through mathematics or through AlphaFold and protein folding that really are just different, just straight up different than anything that looks like next token prediction. But Hassabis is betting on world models, systems built to simulate the real world, not just predict text. And he points to Anthropic's Jack Clark, who wrote that there is a 60% chance of self-improving AI by 2028. And even points to the researcher Andrew Karpathy leaving to help Claude improve its own training model. And he points towards Google's newest model. It landed 10th on major intelligence rankings, calling that unacceptable for a company the size of Google with the head start that Google had, the data they have, and the infrastructure that they have. So is Demis off to do something that might leapfrog? Maybe. Or maybe not. And they're just facing too many side quests, the same way Sam Altman kind of did and had to take Sora offline. Now they're trying to get refocused on code. Maybe they should have built something, not Sora. Sora, it was meant to be TikTok, which I get, like super highly profitable, a social network, like definitely makes sense coming from someone like Sam Altman, who's just kind of this Y Combinator, like grab everybody and like monetize them and grab the attention and move fast. But you remember in the last video where there was like 8 billion agents and each one was meant to simulate one of us? Like, where that goes, where you actually simulate the entire, human population. And when we make real data, you just take that data and you give that to the avatar, the agent that represents you. And then at some point you have to say, well, like, why is it just a large language model agent? Like, shouldn't it actually probably be my height in some kind of an environment that looks like my environment? And shouldn't it walk around if you really want good predictions and bump into people because these people really do that way? And then shouldn't they have their own internet that they play on so that we can predict how they're going to act on the real internet? And you're just simulating all the way down, which is why you're probably in a simulation in the first place. But yeah, it's interesting to just go that route, and I feel like Google actually might now, especially with Demis like off on his own. So we'll see. Okay, so let's talk about this Mark Zuckerberg blog. So this is called "The Future is for Everybody: A Path Towards a Positive AI Future," published a few days ago by the Zuck. Remember when his card used to say, "I'm CEO, B word, dash Mark" is all he uses now. All right, so if I have to, I'm going to kind of over summarize this, but Zuckerberg's basically saying that everybody should get their own super intelligence, not a few labs. Okay. So the line of thinking kind of makes sense. Let's just make sure we are in the same place here. Like if just the big companies have it, then, you know, there's these mechanisms where somebody might be bribed or might want to control power and use it for their own. So kind of like open source, why don't you give it to everybody? Then everybody gets equal access to it. And if everybody has super intelligence, they're doing it for different reasons. There's some kind of a market mechanism where, you know, people are generally good on average and they're generally doing things that are good. And it kind of just, you know, squishes out the bad and everything stays in balance. That's why the manifesto is the future is for everyone. He wants Meta to give every person their own super intelligent agent. Power should spread out. It should not stack up in a few labs. Even comparing it to a super intelligent lawyer, should one person with that lawyer win everything? Or would it be better if everybody has a super intelligent lawyer? Having a phone that is super intelligent as a doctor is amazing for everyone to have access to it. But then let's put more behind this, right? Like not everybody's building their own infrastructure. So you can hand 1 billion people access to this, but you still might have Zuck or some major frontier company with at least one version faster and ahead of the other. Incredible insights into what the 1 billion people are doing. If there's one company that builds, hosts, and updates every single person, is that the balance that matters? And also, if everybody really does have their own system, say it's like truly open source and it runs on local hardware, and you still give one copy to everybody on Earth to engineer a virus, or, you know, it's like if everybody on Earth had a nuclear weapon, does MAD still apply? Like, does it still mean like, oh, well, nobody will detonate? That would hurt everyone. Like, there's probably one person out of the 8 billion people on Earth that's just crazy or makes a mistake or like is on drugs or something. So how do you really spread out like all of the good and then also kind of contain all of the bad? Because if everything was very private and only the government had access to the super AI, you could argue, well, at least they could control the negative outcomes. They could not use it to hurt everyone. But with that much power in one centralized location, it would absolutely be corrupted. I would not trust that kind of a system to be reliable for all of us. So that doesn't really work either. So then we have to go over to Ben Goertzel's comments here. And I'm pretty sure that if you don't know him, you would recognize his face.
I mean, various ways of making superintelligence will have very different outcomes, both for the superintelligence and for us, right? Like just having a decentralized ecology of competing superintelligences, even if you had like a fair decentralized ontology of competing superintelligences, which is totally not what you could have within a Facebook walled garden. But I mean, that doesn't guarantee human benefit or any particular value system. I mean, ask the fucking chimps and gorillas of the world how the balance of power among human nations has worked out for their own interests, right? I mean, we have to ask what kinds of cognitive architectures we're creating, where they can reason explicitly and reflectively about their values, about ethics, about their goals. You know, whether they can maintain their values and their self-reflection as they gradually upgrade, right?
He's got this idea that, like, if you're a monkey and you're like, okay, there's a whole bunch of humans and there's 8 billion of them and they're all smart, that should balance out and make monkey life great, right? But it doesn't. We just put them in zoos. So, like, I'm trying to get that point across. Imagine that we step down one intelligence level and now we are where monkeys and gorillas are. And they hadn't invented humans yet, right? Like, just hypothetically. And a bunch of monkeys were like, wow, I think if we just keep doing this over and over again and we add, like, you know, compute and money in there, we're going to get something as intelligent as a human. And one of the monkeys is saying, like, well, you know what? We should lock it down so that we can control the one human and we can, like, sort of force that one human to just do what we want and we can all talk about what we ask it to do. And someone else is like, no, that'll be corruptible. Like, that monkey is not good to be the leader who would make that decision. So instead, let's make it so that every monkey has this system that can make something as intelligent as a human. So they all do it, right? 8 billion of them, they make 8 billion humans, and they get the world that we live in now. They end up in zoos. We end up doing all this more advanced stuff than a monkey can do, but it's not necessarily good for anyone. I mean, I don't know if the planet's doing any better. I don't think the monkeys are doing any better. The humans are doing better, or we're doing more human stuff. And doesn't it sort of follow that we're going to just clearly end up with a future where the next step up, the ASIs that are one notch up from where we are right now, will probably be just like that. They'll probably all be competing on these super intelligent problems, like fighting over breakthrough mathematics and the answers to quantum physics and all this stuff that won't even, I can't even dream up to tell you a guess as to what it is. It's going to be so different because I'm literally limited by my cognitive architecture, that they will go out there and compete and do their thing, and there will be some sort of marketplace and winner and pattern. But just because there's more of them doesn't necessarily mean anything for us as humans. And what's even worse is giving everybody access to it where there's like just an endpoint is almost just even the worst. Like, you're still centralized, you're still the only one with it, you're learning from everybody who uses it and what they type into it, and it's just like an endpoint where you grow your centralized control even more. So I don't really buy it. Now, to Goertzel's credit, he is working on a project that's decentralized, and I remember hearing about this actually a long time ago. Like, I think SingularityNet might be over like 10 years old now or something, but it's an interesting idea. It's something like a blockchain, and I'll probably butcher it, that's just from memory, but it's like a blockchain. We each get our node, we each get a little bit of control. There's a little bit of a Wikipedia type thing to it. If AI emerges on a system like that, where you can sort of look at the history of everybody's contribution, what they said to it, then maybe the world can have just this one giant ASI that all of society kind of controls to some degree, and good ideas can sort of rise like in the way a Wikipedia type system would. So, I mean, I can't think of anything better. I don't have tons of faith that it's like being executed because of the way money works at the level it needs to be and who Ben is and all these things. But, you know what? Like, I'll take it. At least someone's doing something and has some kind of an idea that might, in theory, work. And he's making some progress towards it. I mean, I'd love it if everybody got on board. And then he talks about problem number 2, which everyone. Then there's the question of whether everyone means everyone on the planet or everyone in certain countries, because the policy section of the essay has slowing down geopolitical rivals and accelerating American labs. So obviously for Zuckerberg, everyone means US. I mean, I'm a US citizen, so I mean, I feel like maybe more us than others, but then like, I know that's not the way to think about anything that's going to be successful for ASI in the far future either. Yeah. And even if it is like either China or US as a duopoly, it's definitely not everyone in the world. It's always like this side or that side. So you get the problem of what kind of minds are we creating? Like, are they like the monkeys are screwed even if there's a lot of them and everybody has access? There's which everyone gets access, and it's a centralized network in the first place. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the hype button. If you don't have the hype button, just do whatever, a comment or a share, whatever is always super helpful. And yeah, let's continue the conversation. I will be looking for you easily hypnotized people, and I just want to find out I want to get from you, like what it feels like to be hypnotized. Are you playing along in your mind? Is it like a dream where you just accept I'm kind of not in control, but like I'm just feeling chill and I'll go with it, or what? I'll think up some good questions. But anyways, let's talk about whatever you guys want in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.